Freddy, you're supposed to be on lockdown.
Vanessa, the Thesterninator just dropped a new video of Five Nights at Freddy's characters as Pokémon. I even turned on my notifications so I could be alerted the second that a video drops.
Hello and once again welcome back to the channel. I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern, and you guys loved the last Five Nights at Freddy's video so much that I just had to hop right back into it. I was blown away by the number of comments, likes, and subscribers that we were able to get from that video that I thought, this is a no-brainer. Let's hop right back into Five Nights at Freddy's as Pokemon and continue on this trend. And with well over 100 different character variations, it was a literal smorgasbord of animatronics to choose from. And so I left that up to you guys. I launched a poll on my Patreon earlier last week for what characters you all wanted to see, and I must say that Foxy and Mangle won out by a landslide. I don't know why I didn't expect that, but I was still shocked. So that's exactly who we'll be jumping into today. But still, there were some characters that I thought needed some spotlight as well, including some of my personal favorites, as well as some YouTube celebrities who I thought could really use a chance to be in this region or world that we're creating. So there's going to be a lot of stuff showcased today. I'm really excited for it. I'm really pumped, and I hope you guys are too. Let's go ahead and hop right into it first with Five Nights at Freddy's characters as Pokemon, starting with Foxy. So with Foxy, there were a couple things that I had to take into account which are very not Pokemon. I've tackled the same type of issue with my Elden Ring series, so it's nothing unfamiliar to me, but still, it was a completely different animal. Foxy is known for being damaged and broken, having a hook for a hand and missing an eye. And how do I translate that to Pokemon? It was something that was a lot more of a challenge than I thought. I ended up really drawing into that pirate motif. You can see I went ahead and did a skull and crossbones type of design on the chest. Another challenge that I really faced is, being that I already did a Five Nights at Freddy's video, how do I make these designs feel unique to what I've already drawn? How do I give it these spectral wisps that I really like to do for these designs without just mimicking what I did with our Springtrap design? So that became kind of this ongoing challenge, along with the fact that there are a lot of permutations of Foxy. We have Classic Foxy, Withered Foxy, Phantom Foxy, Funtime Foxy, Toy Foxy, Rockstar Foxy, Nightmare Foxy, and that is just breaking the surface on everything that we have. So there was a lot of inspiration, but also a lot of ways that I could get this wrong. I ended up going with using that energy type of spectral wisp that we had in our previous video used for Springtrap, and I think that that kind of works. It makes it feel less blood and gore with the missing arm and missing eye, and makes it more, this is an energy that is escaping in some way. I think that it fits Foxy really well. Another thing was, I knew that this had to eventually become Mangle. That was part of the poll, Foxy to Mangle. So it ended up being something that was really good because it allowed me to know the direction that I wanted to take. It allowed me to look at the design for Foxy and say, okay, what is a great middle ground for Foxy to Mangle? Well, that'd be Funtime Foxy. They have the same colors as Mangle, but the same body shape or vagueness to it as Foxy, and I feel like it really worked. I also would love to hear what you guys think in regards to the abilities and maybe some of the attacks, maybe dex entries too. You guys did a great job with that in the previous video of putting in the comments all that great stuff that allowed us to flesh out this Pokemon. I'd love to see more of that. I see this guy having some bite abilities for the Bite of 87, which many believe was Foxy or Mangle, as well as maybe having some ability that takes into account that for most of the game, you don't really have to deal with Foxy in the first Five Nights at Freddy's. He's kind of behind the curtain, but eventually he does slowly start to work his way out and chase you down the hall and jump scare you like mad. Just the pitter-pattering of those metal feet still haunts my every nightmare. And here we have Proxy. I picked the name Proxy because first off, it sounds like pirate and it sounds like Foxy. Secondly, because a proxy is a stand-in for someone else, and that kind of is the role of Foxy and Mangle within the games. As you progress throughout the games, there's that extra level of difficulty that is the stand-in. So with Mangle, it was a different type of crawl and attack function. With Foxy, suddenly the curtain opens up and he's on his way towards you. I also made it an electric type because I wanted to move away from the ghost typing and give some reasoning for that willowy yellow energy that's coming out of Proxy. I made it shiny, akin to the Phantom Foxy that we see. I just got kind of tired of doing the same black color for all the other shinies, so I feel like this kind of works, utilizing that withery, broken green type vibe. I made it the mangled type, just because obviously we know what it's going to become. So its category is the mangled Pokemon. And speaking of which, why don't we hop in and get a little bit closer to Mangle with our Funtime Foxy design. The Funtime Foxy middle stage was a ton of fun as well as being a challenge. We don't get a ton of time with Funtime Foxy, at least not one-on-one like we do get to experience kind of the personality of regular Foxy or the weird mystique that comes around Mangled. It kind of just is there to fulfill a niche, I feel like. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just felt like that. It felt like people asked for it and so it came back. But it gave me the opportunity to really dive into what the difference between Classic Foxy and Mangle are and extrapolate that throughout this design. For example, Mangle has 2 heads, big design element of Mangle. Am I going to incorporate 2 heads? It felt a little weird to bring in that aspect to a fox type Pokemon, to suddenly have 2 heads and suddenly be wiry and framework, but utilizing some of the things that we've learned with the electric type, using those wispy type maneuvers that we learned in the previous video and in this one, as well as bringing in the color of Mangle into the design of Foxy, there was a lot of opportunity there. So I utilized that. Rather than using these wireframe extensions that Mangle has, I wanted to use that electricity a little bit more. I wanted to bring in the idea that Mangle has those 2 heads. Well, what if we expanded that skull and crossbones into a second head, almost a second entity within the main entity itself? So I gave it eyes, I gave it some shape, and where Foxy is missing an arm, I wanted to extend that electricity to take over both arms. We're starting to see a little bit more of the Mangle shape, I think, start to take form here. We're seeing a little bit of a hint at what we're going to get in that final form. And I feel like that's kind of what the middle forms are. They're almost a teaser for what you're going to get later. I think of Pokemon like Cyndaquil becoming Quilava, where we start to see that explosive energy kind of erupting from it, kind of wildly and abrasively, into Typhlosion, who has it more so under control. I think of Pokemon like Chikorita into Bayleaf. Bayleaf being these seed pods that are going to become this massive flower. You'll also notice that in Funtime Foxy, I swapped the colors a little bit. Whereas Foxy's muzzle is normally pink and the head is white, I wanted to switch those around because I wanted to have it still continue to be that transitionary phase of Foxy with the lighter muzzle. So we'll get more into the more canon color schemes later, but for this, I wanted it to feel a lot more transitional. I also love that I didn't give it the backwards legs that I give a lot of my mammalian type characters. It feels very much like a person in a costume, and I think that if ever I were going to stray away from that design that I do all the time, it would be here, because it should feel like an animatronic. It should feel like a person in a costume. Is that not the lore, that they were designed so that they could walk around and not frighten the children? Feels like they kind of got off the rails on the want for that a little bit, but I loved doing the legs here. It really allowed me to experiment. I think that was the whole premise of this design, at least for me, was experimenting with that transitional middle phase of a 3-stage Pokemon, and I dig it. And so here we have Proxipal, turning that proxy into the idea of proximity, with the idea that this Pokemon is just consistently moving towards you closer and closer, stalking you like a predator, like a fox would. For the shiny, I brought in those Lolbit colors, very like hidden and interesting character in the lore. I was really happy I was able to bring that in. You can see for its size, it's a lot more closer to human proportion, and I did end up bringing in that ghost type. I can't keep myself from doing it with these characters. I try to move away from it, I promise, but it always seems to come back. So it is electric ghost type, still the mangled Pokemon, and I love the name Proxipal, I love the shiny, and for an experiment in transitional Pokemon, I found myself really liking this design. Let me know what abilities you think it could have in the comments down below, and give me some dex entries. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this in the wild, in the world. And now we move into the star of our show, the main attraction, turning the Mangle into a Pokemon. My god, what did I get myself into? So I start by just drawing Mangle's head in the Pokemon style and going from there. This really was the point where I realized I do not have any further plans. So I went with what we'd already learned and expanded on that. I return back to my notes. What do we know about Mangle? Well, we know that it is multiple animatronics kind of mismatched and smashed together, so I wanted to take that into account. We know that it has 2 heads. We know that it is, or it was at one point, a Funtime Foxy variant. So let's put all that together. I went ahead and expanded that skull and crossbones face into a head that feels almost like it's fully taken over the animatronic. It may not be Foxy who's acting this way, it is this spirit within it. So that head has evolved into the main torso, even having its own set of ears, 3 of them behind Foxy itself. I wanted to distress the ears just a little bit, give them that same wisp that even though we're not seeing the energy come out of the head or the torso, it's still there. And I think that it captures the idea that this is multiple beings all together. Almost gives me that Spiritomb energy with that spinning vortex of the body. The limbs now distant memories as they become this electrical energy that just kind of spins and rotates around, shooting off these arms. I see it being able to morph itself down, maybe onto all 4s, into this amalgam of different parts and pieces that maybe don't fit together, and they're all just these entwined energy type of bolts. I'm losing my mind a little bit, trying to decipher why I came up with these decisions, when in reality, I think it just looks cool. I think it looks like it is a spinning mess of a creature, and that's really all you need with Mangle, isn't it? A just nightmarish ghoul of multiple pieces and parts, just haywire and strung together, where normally that would be, oh man, I'm going the wrong direction. I feel like with Mangle, it's no, that's exactly where you need to go. You'll see that once again, I'm kind of coloring it with those swapped colors in the face. I do fix that before the final rendering. But yeah, man, it was nuts going through this process, figuring out a way to make this work, because I'm ultimately making something broken that shouldn't work, something that feels like it shouldn't exist, it shouldn't be put together in the way that it is, and yet trying to utilize that not as a detriment, but as a tool to the design. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And so that's what I end up doing here with Mangle. I keep on saying Foxy because they've been used so interchangeably in my head during these designs, but this is the Mangle. I would like to believe that it is the Mangle. You can see that with this design and the one prior, I did move away from the missing eye and brought in that blackened eye that we see in Mangle. No longer the eye patch, no longer kind of the clawed out or missing, or quote unquote missing eye, but instead just the semblance of it. And here we have a Proximus, the mangled Pokemon, electric ghost type. For its shape, I wanted it to be towering over the human player, almost as if it had its main functioning body. It would be about the size of a player character, but given this long and extensive and expanded type of shape that's been mangled and mutilated by the electrical currents and other energy source within it, it is stretched over and beyond them. For its colors, I went with the shadow mangled type design, where we have that dark black that kind of encompasses everything, but again, didn't want to go full black on all the colors, so I brought in those purples and those blues to emulate the shadow type of features. But who could be the trainer for such a Pokemon? Such a powerful and mangled and messed up Pokemon? Who could possibly tame this thing? Well, it would have to be someone who has some sort of personal connection to the Bite of 87. Someone who maybe got fame through the Bite of 87 and through their interaction with not just Mangled, but through the rest of these Five Nights at Freddy's characters. Well, it would have to be the king of Five Nights at Freddy's.
As you all know, I am the king of Five Nights at Freddy's!
Yes, I thought no one better fit the bill for being the champion of this Five Nights at Freddy's region than Markiplier, the king of Five Nights at Freddy's. Crown, scepter, robe, all encompassed within it. So here we have him. I wanted to give him kind of that Leon vibe as the king. I feel like that really fits Mark's energy, is kind of letting people know they're the king of Five Nights at Freddy's, and nothing bad about that. I'm super pumped about it. Maybe if I ever do an Iron Lung based region, I'll bring Mark back as the champion of that one too, just traveling around whooping butt across every Pokemon region that they come across. But yeah, I felt this just felt right. There are a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's creators out there, a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's video people out there, but only one truly holds the title of champion, of king. So, of course, I had to include him. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that this would be a fight worth having in this region? Do you think that you could take on the champion of this region and come out victorious against a being as powerful and all-encompassing as Champion Markiplier? That's a good question, actually. Would he go by Champion Markiplier or Champion Mark? I guess it would be Markiplier, Champion Markiplier. Maybe he streams or does videos on all of his battles. But as king, as champion, those are the decisions that Champion Markiplier gets to make alongside their ace Pokemon, Approximus. I think this would be a ton of fun as a battle. Let me know in the comments what you think, and be sure to give me those dex entries as well as those abilities for Approximus. I think that's going to turn the tide of absolutely everything going on here. So I love this as a champion. I love this as our ace Pokemon, but we're not done yet. Real quick, I want to hop into some of the other designs that I was working on and see what you think about those as well. First, we have the adorable Chipa. This, of course, is our Chica Pokemon. I've always loved just the derpy face that Chica has, and I had to capture that here. I wanted to also capture the shape of that bib in the neckline of Chipa as well. It is the picky eater Pokemon, but I think we're going to see that change as this Pokemon evolves. I wanted to keep it really small as well, again, kind of giving that starter vibe before it evolves into Chick SP. Chick SP has the ESP within the name Chick, so it's Chick SP, and it is an electric psychic type, really taking advantage of just hearing throughout Security Breach Chica somewhere. The psychological torment of having to deal with she is in the building. You'll see that the eye color changes. That's actually a reference to the fact that Chica's eye color changes multiple times throughout the franchise. The pink, the blue, the green, all these different color variations. For the color of the shiny, I wanted to capture the Glamrock Chica aspect a little bit more, giving it more of those pinks and whites. It's gotten a little bit bigger. It very much feels like it's kind of a Route 1 bird type size, or maybe a secondary evolution to a starter, and I love this thing. I wanted the bib to become these wings. I want to keep that bib. That bib is a big part of the design. I don't care what anyone says, that Let's Eat bib from the games. As much as it's a fun, family-friendly type of energy to it, hearing those words just sends shivers down my spine now. Which brings us to Psychick. Psychick is our Glamrock Chica design. You can see that she has that guitar made out of psychic and electrical energy, so she's part of this band that we're gonna see kind of evolving throughout the rest of these Pokemon here. The shiny incorporates some of that Shadow Chica energy, as well as those greens from the leggings that we see on Glamrock Chica. She's a little bit taller than your average player character now, and while she is the picky eater Pokemon, I'm sure she's going to have a lot of eating-based attacks. So let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So I need some help making these dex entries, guys. They're not gonna happen without your help, so please, we've gotten a ton of them that have been fantastic stuff from the previous video. Let's continue on that energy here as we move on into your next Pokemon of encountering, and that of course is Babon. Babon is the dark type, pure dark type, at least in this form. It is the Shadow Rabbit Pokemon, and you can see from its shiny that there is something going on here. We're gonna get to see some really cool stuff with this design. I had a lot of people asking for Shadow Bonnie, and I'm gonna be honest, as much as I tried to make just a black silhouette work as a Pokemon, I could not get it to happen. So hopefully we're gonna see some stuff that you enjoy just as much. I dig this design. I love the idea of utilizing the body shape almost feeling like guitar strings and incorporating those dark areas across the legs and across the body and in the eyes as well to mimic that Shadow Bonnie that we're gonna see later on in the transformation here. And I don't know about you, but I always pictured Bonnie as kind of the muscle of the group, so he's become this big beefing monster called Narcolepsy, a mix of the term narcolepsy, which is falling asleep at random times, and lope, which is the scientific term for a rabbit, where we get things like Lopunny. So yeah, we have Narcolepsy here with the shiny mimicking that Shadow Bonnie look. He has that bow tie, he has those strings across the chest that look very much like a dickie that you would wear in a concert type of area. He has these black splotches throughout the body, which I see him as being able to take out and throw as almost as shadow bowling balls for Bonnie Bowl. He is dark electric type. We're very much moving away from those ghost types here, and I dig it so much. He is just absolutely massive, and you'll notice that Narcolope actually doesn't evolve because he has been killed by Monty in Security Breach. Such a terrible, terrible turn of events, but given that and given the line from Freddy, we don't have a rabbit here, not anymore. I wanted to pay some homage to that, so let me know what you think. I'd love to hear the dex entries for this guy. And while I know that this next design didn't win anyone's favorite in polls, I couldn't leave this video without drawing a reference to Sun and Moon. As the second that these guys show up on screen, when Sun first appears, I thought, this is my new favorite character. This is my precious baby boy that I will do whatever I can to keep them safe. I knew the moment that they appeared, and then they become Moon, and I thought, I might let my precious baby boy go in honor of Moon. So I had to draw them. I had to, they have been, throughout playing the games, as much as I can get over Foxy or Roxy or Monty or any of the other characters kind of stalking you around, every single time that I saw those stars start to fall in Security Breach, I panicked. Every other character, so Chica's over there, I just gotta keep an eye out for her. Oh, okay, so it looks like I gotta keep an eye, the curtain's open, Foxy might come out at some point, I gotta keep an eye there. The moment that there was any inkling that Sun or Moon might be nearby, I went into sheer panic mode, so I had to draw these guys. So here is Soluna, or Day Soluna, I should say. In the Day form, it is Fire and Fairy type. This is, of course, the Nightlight Pokemon, and the shiny inverts those colors. I see it very much as the Sun form of Soluna, kind of sitting in the middle, rotated slowly and lazily by that Night form, and I think that that's super cool. I don't know when they would switch sides. Maybe it's at half HP, maybe it is during the day or night cycle. Love to hear about that. And yeah, I think it's a really cool design, and I was glad that I was able to fit one of my favorite characters into this video as well. But of course, when night mode is activated, we see Night Soluna. It is still the Nightlight Pokemon, but it does take on that dark fairy type, still keeping the same stats, still keeping the same just overall vibe, just kind of switching their orbits so that now the small sun is orbiting the sleepy little Night Soluna. Oh, it's so cute and so fun based off of my favorite character. This just came naturally to me. Love drawing these guys out, and they were so simple and just, man, I love it so much. But with all of these fun and goofy Pokemon throughout this Five Nights at Freddy's inspired region, who would be best to take care of them? Who would be best to research them? Digging into all of the surrounding thoughts, hypotheses, and theories surrounding these Pokemon. I do think that I have an idea. I think that I know exactly who would be the perfect Pokemon professor, but it's not so much a fact as much as it is a theory.
But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory.
Yes, if there were anyone most destined to be the Pokemon professor of this region, it would have to be MatPat. There's no one better to take care of, learn, and understand all of these crazy Pokemon that we've designed. He's done so much for the Five Nights community as well as the lore builders, and it's just, I would feel remiss to not include MatPat as a key feature to this region. So he'll be the one responsible for giving you your starter Pokemon, as well as leading you through this incredible journey all the way up to our Pokemon champion Markiplier. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. It was a ton of fun to make. We got to go through a lot of different Five Nights at Freddy's characters, as well as Pokemon, and just the design elements that go along with them. If you want to find me across different media platforms, you can find me on Instagram, X, Ko-fi, all these other media stuff just down below in the description. You can also find the link to our Discord, where I actually talked a little bit about the design elements and gave some teasers to our Discord community there. We're a quickly growing little community, and it's a ton of fun. A lot of artists sharing their work. I want to do an art kind of roundtable at some point and show off some of the really fun stuff that they've been creating in the Discord. So hop on over there, and until next time, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.